What do I think could happen to your favorite NFL team in 2026? It's time for bold predictions. It's time for another annoying face with a YouTube channel to put out bold predictions. Per usual, these predictions will be in tiers. So let's get right to it. Tier number 1 is called, I thought this was a bold predictions video. The Chicago Bears' 2026 bold prediction, a Bears quarterback finally throws for 4,000 yards in a season. It's your year, Tyson Bagent. What? Caleb Williams was just short of the 4,000 yard marker in 2025 as he threw for 3,942 yards, 58 of which of course came on Colston Loveland's game-winning catch against I'd rather not talk about it. That mark, however, did set Caleb Williams apart as the Bears' single-season passing yardage leader. He's got everything he could ask for: an offensive guru for a head coach, up-and-coming targets like Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, and Rome Odunze, a Madden cover where everyone in the Willis Tower gets a nice view of his ass. The world is your oyster, Caleb. Do the thing. Next up, the Dallas Cowboys' bold prediction: Dak Prescott leads the NFL in passing yards. Last year, Dak Prescott was third in the NFL in passing yards, only trailing the two dudes who were traded for each other in the 2021 offseason. Dak has always been fairly good in terms of stats, but he has never actually led the NFL in passing yards. This year, I think he does it. CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are one of the elite duos in the modern game. Ryan Flournoy and Kevontae Turpin, go Spartans, are both occasionally fun and frisky. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is still the guy that makes everyone in America hold their breath when they realize he's the intended target. It's a receiver room that's so deep that lurking deep down the depth chart is Bill Belichick's girlfriend. No, really. And we also can't forget about Jake Ferguson, who I still apologize for calling mid. After a season that saw increased production, I now retract my previous statement and now refer to him as decently above average. Good job, bud. And until further notice, this will be a defense that keeps Dak Prescott throwing. He's led the league in completions twice over the last 3 years, and he led the NFL in touchdown passes in 2023. I think 2026 is the year he finally leads the league in passing yards. And the last team in this tier, the New Orleans Saints' bold prediction: the Saints win the NFC South and have double-digit wins. Two things can be true here. The Saints are a team on the rise, and their wins from last season were against absolutely chicken shit teams. Now, they are going to be without Jordan Tyson for the first 2 months of the season, which will inevitably sting. Luckily, after the first 2 weeks of the season, their schedule isn't too bad, and he should be expected back after their 2 consecutive bye weeks in the middle of the season. I like Kellen Moore, I liked Tyler Shuck's steady improvement throughout the end of his rookie season, and Chris Olave might be the most underrated wide receiver 1 in the NFL. And I know me saying a bunch of names doesn't really mean anything, but neither does the NFC South. Any team can win this division, and the Saints have given me the fewest amount of reasons to believe that they can't. Not to mention, the Saints had the NFL's second easiest schedule this year, only trailing the Cleveland Browns. Their path is squeaky clean. They aren't ready to go the distance just yet, but someone has to win the NFC South. I predict the Saints. Tier number 2 is award winners. First up, the New England Patriots' bold prediction for 2026: Drake May wins the MVP. Drake May missed out on the MVP award last year by the enamel on his teeth. But as a result, commentators now have something else to talk about every time Matthew Stafford's within 500 feet of a camera, besides that Super Bowl win. The Pats have done a great job building around Drake May. A.J. Brown was willed over to the Patriots thanks to Mike Vrabel putting it in Diana Rossini's butt enough times. And speaking of old Packers, Romeo Doubs has also joined the Patriots receiver corps. Not to mention, the Patriots receiver room is the only way Mike Vrabel can keep Booty around. And they added Elijah Vera Tucker to their O-line, and be thankful I didn't add any euphemisms there. The MVP is usually a whose turn is it award. And if Joe Burrow can't stay healthy, I really hope that he does, Drake may pull it off. Drake may not pull it off. The Detroit Lions' bold prediction: Sam Laporta returns to being an all-pro. Sam Laporta has had success in this league, but none more so than in his rookie year, where he won the Lions' historical Triple Crown award for tight ends. He set their all-time record in receiving for tight ends with 86 catches, 889 yards, and 10 touchdowns. He was named to the Pro Bowl, and he was a second-team All-Pro member as a result. 2024 and 2025, however, saw down years for him, with his 2025 season ending early due to back surgery. Unless his back injury resulted in an atrophied quad like mine did, he should return to form in 2026. Reports out of training camp say that he started out slow, as do most people after back surgery, but he has since shaken off the rust and is starting to look like his old self again. He's also due for a contract next season, and reports say that Laporta and the Lions are far apart in negotiations. They've already paid Jahmyr Gibbs, and they still have to pay Brian Branch. Laporta's got to return to the magical way he was in his rookie season, and he might be golden. Not to mention the Lions also brought in Drew Petzing, the former offensive coordinator of the Cardinals, to be their offensive coordinator. Petzing was at the helm of the offense when Trey McBride turned into a literal superstar, and helping Sam Laporta return to being a superstar is very possible if he stays healthy. The Kansas City Chiefs' bold prediction. Oh, you get off my screen! Mansour Delane wins Defensive Rookie of the Year. My previous prediction was Patrick Mahomes winning MVP, and after being unable to write the rest of that prediction without vomiting, I decided to change course. Mansour Delane was a player I liked a lot coming out of college. In a draft chock full of mediocrity, Delane was the unquestioned top cornerback in the draft. Jermod McCoy was arguably the most talented corner in the draft, but his ACL has the structural integrity of the Oakland Coliseum. Delane will be immediately slotted as the #1 corner on the depth chart, particularly after Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson went to the Rams. All that said, he has been dealing with a shoulder blade injury that has kept him out of being a full participant in practice for the majority of training camp. He should be a full go by this time the season starts, where I have very high expectations for him. Those high expectations include being named Defensive Rookie of the Year. The Minnesota Vikings' bold prediction for 2026, Kyler Murray wins Comeback Player of the Year. Kyler Murray was brought over from the Cardinals to compete with J.J. McCarthy, and of course Kyler Murray won the job, because J.J. McCarthy's career is in limbo, and what player is better at limbo than Kyler Murray? Now, I fully understand that some people don't think RFK Jr.'s campaign manager, I said what I said, got a fair chance. Well, he started 10 games in 2025. Among QBs last season to start at least 10 games in 2025, he had the lowest passer rating in the NFL, the lowest completion percentage, the fewest adjusted net yards per attempt, the highest interception percentage, and the second fewest yards per game. Do I think Kyler Murray is good? Ish. He's a player who certainly has an exciting highlight reel and who can occasionally be a competent passer on a consistent basis. Kyler Murray is more fun than good, but he is more good than J.J. McCarthy. Is better correct grammar? Yes, it is. You know what I mean. Kyler has had some injury trouble over the last few seasons, but when he's healthy, he can make highlight reel plays with apt consistency. He is the best the Vikings have right now. The Atlanta Falcons' bold prediction, Bijan Robinson wins Offensive Player of the Year. Bijan Robinson, a man whose name we as a whole pronounced correctly for approximately 5 seconds, just got paid this past offseason. He just got a 3-year contract worth $75 million. He showed that if you work hard and are literally the most talented running back in the NFL, you too can still have a lower average annual salary than Courtland Sutton. I don't think the Falcons are very good. They have good players, I just don't think they're very good right now. I don't think any team in the NFC South will be legitimately good. The only way any NFC South team gets to the divisional round is if any of them are lucky enough to face the Philadelphia Eagles in the wild card round. He's got a new coaching staff that realizes what a fun toy they have in him, and he no longer has the lead singer of them TD Vultures, Tyler Algier, to steal away touchdowns. If both hefty lefties prove ineffective, they may have to rely on their stud running back for survival on offense. And the final member of this tier, which will be looped into tier 3, the Tennessee Titans' bold prediction, Carnell Tate wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. I love the pairing of Cam Ward and Carnell Tate. Cam Ward had nobody to throw to last year, as shown by the fact that his leading receiver, Chig Okonkwo, had 560 receiving yards. To put the Titans' receiving room in perspective from last year, Josh Downs would have won their receiving triple crown. Cam Ward is going to be much happier in 2026. He's got Wan'Dale Robinson to catch all the passes that used to go Tyjae Spears' way. Calvin Ridley is still around eating cap space. Chimere Dike and Alec Iamaner, they'll have a couple fun receiving TDs apiece. But with that, my God, am I sold on Carnell Tate. The Titans brought in good coordinator, bad head coach, poster child Brian Daboll, who helped develop Josh Allen, and to help develop Cam Ward. A big part of that is making Carnell Tate his consistent first read, and unlike Mekhi Lemon, he has a clear path to the wide receiver 1 role. And unlike Jordan Tyson, he also has a clear path to starting the season on time. Jeremiah Love seems to be the betting favorite, but the Cardinals may not be competitive in enough games to necessitate a major workload for him. Also, our boy Fernando Mendoza isn't really going to play until further notice. The award, as of now, is Carnell Tate's to lose. We are now moving on to tier number 3, named I Promise I Don't Hate Jeremiah Love, I Just Think the Cardinals Suck. First up, the Arizona Cardinals' bold prediction for 2026. Tyler Algier, not Jeremiah Love, leads them in rushing TDs. Tyler Algier has had an interesting first 4 years in the NFL. In his rookie season, he was a 1,000-yard rusher and averaged nearly 5 yards per carry. Bijan Robinson then took his job while Algier served as a decent complimentary piece. However, an interesting tidbit I found out while researching this video, the leader in rushing touchdowns for the Falcons last year was actually Tyler Algier. 6 of Algier's touchdowns came from under 6 yards, and the last 4 of his 8 touchdowns came from exactly 1 yard. A lot of the Cardinals rookies are dealing with injuries, particularly Jeremiah Love with his ankle, Chase Pasantis being out for the year, and Carson Beck due to being a schmuck. And I don't think Jeremiah Love's ankle injury will have much of an impact on his long-term prognosis, but for now, it is worth noting. I don't think the Cardinals will be very competitive this year, and I see Mike LaFleur being very careful with his development. I expect their workloads to be a lot closer than people expect. And finally, the Seattle Seahawks' bold prediction for 2026, Jadarian Price outproduces Jeremiah Love. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The fact that the RB2 from the 2026 NFL Draft was Jeremiah Love's own backup really shows how thin the running back class was in 2026. Jadarian Price reportedly is on track to be the Seahawks' RB1 to open the year, which is not a shock considering Emmanuel Wilson is good for 1 exciting rush a game, and Zach Charbonnet is coming off of a major ACL injury. I do think Zach Charbonnet could be in play for 2026, but it doesn't seem like he'll be available for week 1, especially now that he's on the physically unable to perform list. But it's entirely likely that he'll be at least a factor for this season. With his status in doubt, Price at the very least has a huge chance to get a stranglehold on the Seahawks' backfield and not let go. Chardonnay,
and all major retailers nationwide,
could be a change of pace back, but the job is Price's to lose for the long haul. I think with the Seahawks more likely to be able to utilize their running game on a consistent basis than the Cardinals, Jadarian Price has a shot to outproduce Jeremiah Love, especially as the Cardinals rebuild. Tier number 4 is, okay, now we're talking. The New York Jets' bold prediction, Aaron Glenn is a mid-season firing. I've said since the spring that Aaron Glenn is a mid-season firing waiting to happen. I'm not even sure I give him the blame, especially since the Jets are a mess. It's the same reason I'm giving Robert Saleh grace with the Titans. Aaron Glenn's coaching tenure has seen a lot of disdain. It featured 3 wins, one of which I prefer not to talk about, a QB controversy from the owner's box, a defense that hasn't had an interception since he's been hired, a nap at the combine, and Frank Reich's Geno Smith compliments getting ratioed into oblivion. I just see this season being a disaster. Per usual. They have a bunch of decent pieces that they got in the draft. I just don't picture Aaron Glenn's leash being very long. The San Francisco 49ers' 2026 bold prediction, they have double-digit losses. The 49ers have such debilitating injury concerns, NFL Twitter has created a believable conspiracy theory. The electrical substation, which implies the existence of the electrical dom station, has taken over NFL lore, and the tinfoil hats have blamed it for the 49ers' injury problems. Me personally, I think Nick Bosa injures his teammates on purpose anytime he finds out one of their wives has an education. 1 year after this conspiracy theory started, it hasn't gotten better. Ricky Pearsall is out for the season because he had surgery to repair his PCL. Michael Williams is coming off of a torn ACL. George Kittle is coming off of a torn Achilles. Do I keep going? I will, but for only one more player. Christian McCaffrey has injury baggage and is officially on the wrong side of 30. Key pieces are in trouble for the 49ers. It felt like they got into the playoffs on a technicality last season, and they got destroyed the instant they faced a real team. They also play in the same division as the Rams, the Seahawks, and the 1990s Bulls of garbage time. If they can stay healthy, this prediction becomes null and void. The Las Vegas Raiders' bold prediction, they trade for a former first-round wide receiver. Right after I made this prediction, they did make a transaction for a wide receiver. It was, in fact, Noah Brown, who turns into a first-round wide receiver every time he plays against the Bengals. Out of respect for Jaden Daniels, the Raiders found the guy who caught the most famous pass of his career and gave him a job. They did draft Fernando Mendoza number 1 overall, but they did sign Kirk Cousins as a bridge quarterback. He played that same role for the Falcons last year, which technically made him a London Bridge. Giving your first overall pick of a QB and first-time head coach that receiver room would be irresponsible. I don't trust it being the long-term plan, even if it's only just for 1 year. The LA Rams' 2026 bold prediction, if Aaron Donald returns, his ceiling is above average, not elite. Everyone is freaking out about the Rams D-line, and for good reason. They acquired Myles Garrett via trade, and even though he played for a Bengals hated rival, I found him impossible to hate. To get him, it did take Jared Verse and returning to the F them picks mantra that Les Snead has tattooed on his lower back. That said, there have been a lot of rumors about Aaron Donald coming back, and it's scaring people who remember Aaron Donald at his peak. At his peak, he was likely the greatest ever. But the reality of the situation, Aaron Donald is 35 years old. He's been retired for 2 seasons. I'm not convinced he's gonna come back and be the elite game wrecker he once was. Now you may be thinking, Shoops, you're just bitter that Aaron Donald and the Rams beat the Bengals in the Super Bowl that one time. And I'm like, listen, I will always be bitter about that. The Bengals have never had a ring, and Jamar Chase was wide open on the Bengals' final offensive play. You'd be bitter too. Go f yourself. Am I saying he'll be bad? No, of course not. I know online NFL discourse is very black and white with either he's the chosen one or he's trash, cut him. But if I had to guess, he'll be above average at best, and his return will be fun at best. The Denver Broncos' bold prediction. Jonah Coleman takes the RB2 role from RJ Harvey. This prediction, of course, relies on the hope that J.K. Dobbins' leg doesn't turn into mush the instant he makes eye contact with a linebacker. RJ Harvey was serviceable in his rookie season. He totaled just under 900 yards from scrimmage and, albeit, had 12 all-purpose touchdowns, which tied him for 12th in the NFL with Devon Achane and Zach Charbonnet. Even with him finding the end zone 12 times, something just felt missing. He averaged a mere 3.7 yards per carry behind arguably the best offensive line in football. He only had 1 game with more than 100 yards from scrimmage. Jonah Coleman, however, does come in with more strengths than RJ Harvey. They are both the same height, with Coleman being 20 pounds heavier. Reports say, and by reports I mean Reddit, but reports are that Coleman has better vision and is better as a pass protector. And even though the preseason only tells a little bit of the story, he had at least as many rushing yards as 5 Broncos players who had more carries. Jonah Coleman was taken in the 4th round of this year's draft, and with Sean Payton usually going with a running back by committee, Coleman will get plenty of chances to prove his worth. For now, I see Jonah Coleman having a legit shot to usurp "Come on RJ, let's go Harvey" on on the depth chart. The Baltimore Ravens' bold prediction for 2026: Lamar Jackson has at least one stint on injured reserve. Last season, it felt like Lamar Jackson was on the injury report with a mysterious injury every single week. Now, for the bleak reality of both Father Time and me getting old, Lamar Jackson turns 30 this season. Granted, it isn't until the last game of the season, but it should be unnerving nonetheless for Ravens fans. Lamar, as good as he is, has the kind of play style that doesn't last forever. He's made a career out of doing superhuman shit. Eventually, trying to do that kind of stuff in your 30s will catch up to you. Just ask Ken Griffey Jr. Lamar is still, for now, a top-tier quarterback. He can still very much run. He can still very much throw it farther than a lot of people realize. That said, he has begun to show some wear and tear, not necessarily with his ability, but his health. And not to mention, he's only started every game in a season once anyway, and that was in 2024. Am I saying this because every part of me wants the Bengals to face Tyler Huntley on New Year's Eve? A little bit, yeah, actually. Tier 5 is titled Bold Predictions. The Buffalo Bills' bold prediction for 2026: they still don't have a wide receiver one solution. As someone who's liked DJ Moore a lot over the years, I'm not 100% sold on DJ Moore in this offense. He is the big fish in a small pond from which you can't see the shoreline. Now, this is to say there are a lot of things about DJ Moore on the Bills that could go well. He has affiliation with Joe Brady from their days in Carolina. He truly is the wide receiver one by default on the depth chart. His biggest competition for targets is Wan'Dale Robinson with better hair. But that said, I'm not totally sold. Brandon Beane, who I find deeply unlikable, went out and spent a second-round pick on a Band-Aid for their receiver room. DJ Moore is going to be 30 in April, and even though he had a perfectly fine 2025 with some flashy moments, sorry, Packers fans, I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank. There are people who are wholly and utterly sold on DJ Moore because they spent 5 seconds looking at a depth chart, but at the very least, it's not a long-term solution. There are also some reports that Josh Allen is a source of frustration with the Bills' coaching staff, and there's been sort of a power struggle. While I agree that it's not the best decision to give a headset to Haley Steinfeld, Josh Allen is undoubtedly one of the best QBs in the league. I do think the Bills regress a little bit. James Cook is a stud, though. The Philadelphia Eagles' bold prediction for 2026: they have 0 1,000-yard pass catchers. I don't fully and consistently trust Jalen Hurts as a passer. To me, Jalen Hurts is what happens when you cross Bryce Young and Rico Dowdle. Last year, he only had one game with over 300 yards passing, and that was with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in his receiver room. Now, after months of speculation and rumors and affairs, allegedly, he doesn't have A.J. Brown. The Eagles actually had 2 1,000-yard pass catchers last season, according to the bullet point in all caps on Kevin Patullo's resume. They both got over 1,000 yards by the Devontae Smithest of margins. Now their top 2 receivers are Devontae Smith, who will have sole possession of the wide receiver 1 spot, and Mekhi Lemon, who is undoubtedly talented, but also feels a little bit too much like Chase Claypool the sequel. The one person I actually think might make this prediction go to null and void is Sean Mannion. He was hired as their offensive coordinator and seemed to be a candidate on the rise. Jordan Mailata called him an evil genius, which makes me believe he's thankful that he has a coordinator that allows him to add the word genius to that description. They will likely improve from a coaching standpoint, but it comes down to Hurts' consistency as a passer. The Washington Commanders' bold prediction for 2026: they end the season in last place in the NFC East. I'm not sold on the Commanders this year, even if Jaden Daniels deserves nothing but our undying respect. They had a league-worst defense in 2025, and I don't see that improving very much, if any, in 2026. They did try to make some upgrades, like signing Odafe Oweh, signing Leo Chenal, and drafting Sonny Styles. I don't think those are bad investments on the surface, but I don't think they are enough to move the needle for me to believe that they will be serviceable as a unit. Unless Durante Jones can function well without Brian Flores by his side, they make me a bit nervous. I don't even like them that much on offense. Jaden Daniels is still coming off a deeply injury-plagued season, and at this rate, his name, image, and likeness will be used to describe Robert Griffin III's entire career. Terry McLaurin and Stephon Diggs, who both like every single throw to go their way, are in the same receiver room, and that's gonna end well. And elsewhere, they signed both Rachaad White and the Rachaad White of tight ends. They have an ability to prove me wrong, but for now, I'm not buying it. The Green Bay Packers' bold prediction for 2026. They're in last place in the NFC North. It doesn't make sense for me to put the team in Titletown in last place because they are the Green Bay Packers. I don't see a lot of genuine reason to be excited about them other than the fact that they are the Green Bay Packers and it feels like I have to be excited about them. Jordan Love just feels like a quarterback I'm supposed to like, even though Jordan Love sounds like the nickname Jordan Rodgers gives himself when he's flirting. You know, in the real world, they call me Jordan Rodgers, but in the bedroom, you know what they call me? Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer Schmidt might face some disciplinary action for a summer arrest. The receiver room lost Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks and gained an inexplicable contract extension. And they're also going to be without Micah Parsons for the vast majority of the season. But what do they have? The third hardest schedule in the NFL per several preseason metrics. Nothing about this team excites me until further notice. The only thing worth writing home about is the fact that Christian Watson's ACL is intact. For now. The Cleveland Browns' 2026 bold prediction: Todd Monken is fired after one season. The Browns are just waiting out time until Deshaun Watson's contract sucks their bank account dry. They're a mess. They still have a good defense, but the loss of Myles Garrett and defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz will automatically make it worse. The Browns' quarterback room will be a ghost story, considering the amount of lowlights they'll have. Get it? Their offensive line this year is patched together with leftovers they got from free agency. Their wide receiver room consists of a bunch of rookies and a veteran with the maturity of one. Todd Monken was hired and Cleveland's collectively went soft at once. He's gonna try his bestest, but it was never a long-term solution, especially since he was Cleveland's offensive coordinator the year Odell Beckham was supposed to take them to the championship. Grant Udinski was right to say no. Now moving on to tier number 6, called, hang on a minute, buddy, this is a bit much. The Houston Texans' bold prediction: Tank Dell is a 1,000-yard receiver. As I was writing this today, I found out some pretty rough news. Jaden Higgins tore his ACL. He ascended at the end of 2025 and was looking to improve for this season, and then his 2026 season ended before it began. Luckily, they have another receiver returning from injury, the dynamo that's Tiny Mo, Tank Dell. I know David Montgomery has provided value for the Texans' backfield, but I'm not sold on their rushing identity for 2026. I still have major questions about their offensive line, and those won't be answered until the season starts. That said, I do like their passing attack. They have CJ Stroud trying to earn a new contract. They'll have Nico Collins, who is a bona fide number one. They'll also have Tank Dell trying to earn a new contract, especially as he comes back from an injury. He's in a major prove-it year, and I see him as more of a boom candidate than a bust candidate unless he gets hurt. Give me 1K for my guy. The Jacksonville Jaguars' bold prediction: Parker Washington makes the Pro Bowl. From week 16 to week 18 last season, Parker Washington had the second most receiving yards in the NFL with 347. The leader in that span, Puka Nacua, had 348. Parker Washington has seemed to establish himself as the top receiver in Jacksonville. And with his strong late season stretch, offensive-minded head coach with an excellent reputation, and a QB who really came along last season, Parker Washington may be one of the deepest sleepers in the league this year. Even if he doesn't make the Pro Bowl in a league loaded with wide receivers, he could make it as a returner. He's had 3 punt return touchdowns in the last 2 seasons, which is more than any punt returner in that span. Parker Washington can't lose. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers' bold prediction for 2026: they trade for a former first-round QB. Baker Mayfield is not happy with the Bucs organization right now. And if I had to guess, Baker Mayfield has more leverage than the Bucs are willing to admit. In his 3 seasons in Tampa, he has not missed a game, and he has thrown all but 18 of his team's passes in that span. However, the Bucs and Baker are at an impasse at the worst possible time for a team and QB to be at an impasse. Teams in desperate situations do desperate shit. There are 2 quarterbacks that I think could fit this category, and both of them are looking for second chances and are proving that they could be the guy somewhere. The first of those is Anthony Richardson. The deeply uninteresting version of Adam Schefter has reported that Anthony Richardson has played his last snap as a Colt, and with him being on the last year of his rookie contract, a trade would be damn near expected if someone wants him. Do I know if it'll happen? No idea. I'm just a guy. Jamarcus Hustle likely won't start in 2026, but for a team whose backup is a guy I watched get deeply exposed last season the instant there was tape on him, they may need an insurance plan. The other potential option is, of course, J.J. McCarthy, who's the spoiled rich kid who found out very quickly that you can only get away with being ass for so long. I don't see Anthony Richardson or J.J. McCarthy as the true answer for a team, but I do see them as a safety net, or in their eyes a safety net, for a team in a desperate situation. Tampa might be in one more than they're willing to admit. Tier number 7 is, dude, I said hang on a minute. The LA Chargers' bold prediction: Keaton Mitchell leads the Chargers in explosive plays. When I found out the Chargers signed Keaton Mitchell, my instant reaction was, damn, Mike McDaniel is about to do some Mike McDaniel-ass shit with this dude. Keaton Mitchell hasn't been the most active player in the league, as in his 3 years in the NFL, he has 140 total touches. But here's the thing, nearly 10% of his touches have been for over 20 yards. He is mighty quick. The only thing more certain than Mike McDaniel having a page in his playbook called Keaton Mitchell is the fact that that page has all over it. Now, Mike McDaniel has gone on record saying that all 3 running backs in the room will all get an equal chance, and they're gonna ride the hot hand. Though common knowledge has people believing Omarion Hampton will get the bulk of the early down work. But to assume Mike McDaniel doesn't have secret plans for Keaton Mitchell is irresponsible. Omarion Hampton's going to lead the team in YPC, Ladd McConkey's going to lead the team in YPG, and Justin Herbert already leads the team in PDA. But Keaton Mitchell will lead the team in TNT. Explosive, you know what, I'll shut up. My Carolina Panthers 2026 bold prediction: the Panthers will have 2 1,000-yard receivers. I had 9 fantasy football teams last season because doctors tell me I have what's called a problem. I had Teteroa McMillan on all 9 of them. He was aptly named the Offensive Rookie of the Year in sort of a down year for offensive prospects, as he had 70 receptions, 1,014 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Now, Coker. Not him. That's better. The third-year player out of Holy Cross made a name for himself in the wildcard round against the Rams last season with 9 catches, 134 yards, and a score, even though the Rams barely squeaked out the victory. He's been used steadily throughout his 2 seasons, and he has a career total of 872 receiving yards, which makes this prediction a bit lofty. However, with him starting in the season finale and in the wildcard round and producing very well in the latter game, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. All of that combined with Bryce Young looking to play like he badly wants to prove that he's that guy who deserves a second contract, I predict a lot of throwing. The Pittsburgh Steelers' 2026 bold prediction: like the 49ers, they have double-digit losses. I, along with many people, find the Steelers deeply annoying for reasons other than the fact that I root for my hometown Bengals. I admire teams that don't give up, unless every sign on the planet shows that they very, very, very clearly should. Aaron Rodgers has had a Hall of Fame career. However, Aaron Rodgers is in the twilight phase of his career. And when I say the twilight phase, I mean the hype will be insufferable, the on-screen product will be absolutely terrible, and there will be way too much melodramatic acting. This team will feature a completely new coaching staff, a quarterback with more main character syndrome than he deserves to have at this point in his career, and a roster of average players with more name value than actual value. Even though they made the playoffs last year, I'm just not sold on their chances, nor should anyone be. This is also my one chance to all over the Steelers before they inevitably end up 9-8 and destroy my hopes and dreams. So let me have this. Tier number 8 is, for fuck's sake, calm down. And we're swinging hard here. The New York Giants' bold prediction: Malik Neighbors wins the NFC receiving triple crown. One player who had a lot of eyeballs on him this offseason was Malik Neighbors, who tore his ACL in week 4 of last season after an incredible rookie season. Reports have been both encouraging and concerning. The concerns largely stem from a celebrity softball game where he was walking a little too gingerly on his knee for Twitter's liking. However, reports out of camp say that Malik Neighbors is inching closer and closer to being his old self. But it's not just that. I see him as being the second biggest target of Jackson Darts in New York, only behind Zoran Mamdani. The Giants receiver room isn't really much outside of Malik Neighbors, which for starters means he has got to stay healthy. OBJ's 3 catches per game that will all get a rousing standing ovation will not tell me otherwise. Malik Neighbors' path to being his team's unquestioned #1 receiver is the cleanest out of any team in the NFC. And he also has the best chance to follow the bet on him before he gets the numbers, not after mantra. My Cincinnati Bengals bold prediction: they return to the Super Bowl. Now excuse me while I drink the Kool-Aid for the next minute or so. Hi, upper left-hand corner, Alex.
How's it going, middle of the screen, Alex?
Are you ready?
I think so.
All right, let's do this. I fully understand that some parts of all 32 fan bases believe their team can go to the Super Bowl. I also fully understand that 31 of those fan bases are going to end the season deeply disappointed. In addition, part of being in the preseason is buying into your own team's propaganda. However, if they stay fully healthy...
Can I be done now?
No! The Bengals do have a legitimate Super Bowl roster, again, if they're healthy. I realize I'm biased. I know that full well, but hear me out. Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow.
This
Chase
sucks.
Brown is in a contract year. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are Himothy 1 and Himothy 2. The offensive line is the best offensive line the Bengals have ever had with Joe Burrow, and I realize that isn't saying much.
I hate
the
this.
D-line? Dax Hill and DJ Turner are 2 underrated corners who are both looking for a new contract. Safeties and linebackers? Well, we'll talk when the time comes, but the Bengals have a serious ability to contend if everything goes right. This team truly is Super Bowl or bust, especially over the next 3 seasons, as the front office has to worry about Joe Burrow's desire to stay in Cincinnati, and Zach Taylor's seat is piping hot, according to some inside sources. Well, that'll do it for the Bengals section. How you doing up there, Alex?
I gotta pee.
I don't care! The Indianapolis Colts' 2026 bold prediction: Pat McAfee wins the Grammy for Album of the Year. Apparently, Pat McAfee had written song lyrics into his phone for years, so he surprised everybody and dropped an album. Pat McAfee is such a musical genius. He had antivirus computer software named after him. In all seriousness, I listened, and I got through it. I won't make you listen, but we're talking about it. Pitbull and a Mugshot was his desperate attempt to be Morgan Wallen's opening act. Blue Collar Symphony. Morgan Wallen said no, so he went for Jelly Roll. Good Times is a country song that it's exactly what it sounds like. Young Me. It comes with a music video featuring Pat McAfee slow dancing with his ego. Polarizing Figure was catchier than I wanted it to be. Outlaws had a church choir for some reason. Oops will be College Game Day's theme song before we're ready for it to be. Smokin'. It might be what kills Willie Nelson. No one ever knows, because every musician is contractually obligated to write a What If Today Was Your Last Day song. Rich as shit. We're all floating through space, I'm trying to upgrade the ride, was written on the piece of paper McAfee handed the CEO of ESPN before he laid off the staff members people actually liked. Big Rain Comin' finally had some good vocals. They were the woman singing backup. You're Alive was his second unanswered call to Jelly Roll. Click Clack was a rap song that shouted out Adam Vinatieri, which is all you need to know. And Cheers to the South. It sounds like the last thing you hear right before getting bitten by a mosquito. Pat McAfee's country album is the gateway drug that will lead to a Stephen A. Smith rap album. Lord help us all. My actual Colts prediction: the Colts end the season in last place in the AFC South. This team is f***ed, and their Linsanity run last year was a fraud. They beat 2 real teams last year, and one of those wins was because of a leverage penalty. Alec Pierce is making T. Higgins money. I genuinely predict that everyone in this building will lose their jobs. And not to mention, they don't have their first round pick for 2027. I genuinely predict a collapse. And finally, tier number 9. My desperate attempt to get on freezing cold takes, which will give my subscriber numbers the boost they oh so desperately need, but not the good kind, as everyone who comes to this channel won't come for good takes or funny jokes or my hot bod, but instead to dunk on me. My Miami Dolphins bold prediction: they end the season with a better record than the Colts. I fully realize that the Dolphins are one of the worst teams in the league on paper coming into this season, but that's all we have to look at. The paper. The reality is that the Miami Dolphins, more than any team in the NFL, have absolutely nothing to lose. Teams that have absolutely nothing to lose occasionally fart out wins they're not supposed to. They know this. They're going to play with an underdog mentality for all 17 games this season. Okay, for 15 games this season. I understand the receiver core that GM John Benet Sullivan built is nothing to write home about, unless that letter says, "Send help, please." Malik Willis's de facto number one receiver is Malik Washington, which furthers the notion that if their QB wants to succeed, he has to throw it to himself. That said, there are pieces there to eke out a few wins. Devon Achane and Jordan Brooks are still here. Head coach Jeff Hafley and quarterback Malik Willis were in the same building for the last 2 years. There's a lot of familiarity with each other. I'm not saying they're going to be good at all, but I am saying there is a process building, and they've earned a little bit more goodwill than the Cardinals have. And that is all for my bold predictions. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you've made it this far, at the end of this season, I will be doing a best and worst predictions, just like I did last year. If you haven't already, click the like button and subscribe to the channel for the sexiest sports content of all time. But for now, stay tuned for more sports content that you didn't ask for.